Today's guest is a specialist in commercial construction, and over the past decade has impacted more than 4 million lives with her best-selling books, keynotes, and programs. Today she's going to share with you new insights, ideas, and information to construct your career. Would you please help us welcome to the website, the live stream. Elinor, welcome.
I've never had that audio with an audience. It adds a great flavour. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Well, if they were here, they would do it. And
Yes.
I know they would. It's a very important topic. Now, you've got close to a decade of experience in commercial construction. When you first got into commercial construction, what was the goal that you started with, and what excited you about that goal?
I thought by the age of 30, I'm going to become a project manager. That was the antithesis of the career. That was everything that I was working towards, aiming towards, until I asked myself why. And then I realized that that was the question that started pulling everything that I thought was the right way to have a career. It started making it all undone because I was chasing an externality, which is a job title, which at the end of the day means nothing, especially when it has very little to do with your person. Also realized that 30 and that managerial position was not actually the end of the line. So then I would try fill in the response and say I'm going to climb the corporate career ladder, but I never knew why. I never had a compelling reason why. And this is when I started realizing that there is a disconnect between the individual expression of a person within the industry and what is conventionally considered as a career in construction. And I found that to be quite suffocating, which is what sent me down the path to investigate my own vision. I didn't have a clue. I was just following what everyone else was doing. And that led me to a point where I was so deeply dissatisfied with my career in construction. And where most people falter, and I know we'll get to this, is they continue to seek answers outside of themselves when they actually have to go inside, shut the doors to the suffocating industry, the conventional job titles, being defined by the projects or how many zeros are on the contract, and consider first and foremost, what do I want to do? And I entered into the industry because I am quite process driven, but I'm also a creative person. I love to create, but I don't like being suffocated.
On the way through that, what were some of the emotional challenges that you were going through?
All of them. All of them. When one paradigm starts to break down, and I'm talking about it because now I recognize what I was going through. The death of old ideologies is an equivalent mourning period. It's a grieving period because you were so attached to that belief system that this is the only way, this is only how you can have a career in construction. And then you start entertaining new beliefs and new thoughts. So there's a lot of friction. I went through a lot of doubt, thinking, how is it that I don't want to climb the corporate career? What is success? You go through a lot of doubt, a lot of second guessing, and you feel lost. It's like groping in the dark and trying to walk through the fog. You can't see the the end of the line. It feels like I'm never going to have a breakthrough. At the same time, you're not in a position when this first happens, and this is in my experience, to actually articulate those thoughts. You don't go up and say, "Hi Daniel, I'm having a paradigm shift. Can you help me?" You can't articulate what is exactly happening. And when I would try and express this to people around me at the time, I realized that they also don't know what's going on, but all what they were trying to do was put me back in the box. They, at the time when I was questioning the merits of having a one-dimensional, linear, traditional career in construction, they would think, well, no, that's not for you, or what a silly idea. And I'm lucky that every time that I have internalized a doubt, because I had in the past put people up on a pedestal because of their experience, which never actually accounts for anything. In most cases, it's usually 1 year of experience repeated 20 times. I would, take on that doubt, but then there would always be a burning desire. I would feel even more suffocated. And I knew that this friction, that this dance with doubt versus belief, there was a reason for it. And it was truly when I conceived that vision and when I realized the fact that I can think it, I can do it, is what allowed me to just block out all externalities and focus on constructing me from the inside out so that I can have the career that I do today. But you go through every single spectrum of emotions, that's for sure.
And it's a tough industry. I remember growing up and my father was in construction and he was a business owner and they were long, hard hours. He would get up at 4 a.m. in the morning. He was a concreter and he would drive his boom to wherever he had to go. And then he'd go to the next job and he'd come to the next job and then he'd come home and he'd work on the boom all night. Then he'd get up and do it all over again. And I think he did that for 20 or 30 years. And it was, like you said here, you're doing the same thing over and over again. You're repeating the same year 20 times. And so for a lot of people who are hands-on in the industry, it's taxing on the body. And there's not always a lot of time just to think. Now, I think this problem that a lot of people are facing and what you've experienced and expressed here, we have 9% of Australians' population in the construction industry. There's 1.15 million Aussies in the construction industry today. And you mustn't be the only person who's felt like this. There's got to be at least 1 million others feeling like this. So, in your opinion, what are most people missing in the construction industry that holds them back?
They're playing with outdated and archaic rules of the game. And they tend to do the same thing over and over again, but because it's them, they'll expect a different outcome. And yes, there are many people who feel like this, but those who break free from the suffocating and the conservative nature of the industry and pave their own way, it takes courage. But on a global scale, we lack courage, right? Most people lack courage. Courage comes after fear. Most people are so fearful and they think that there's safety in numbers of the masses. Well, everyone's doing it, therefore I'll just keep doing it, and for some reason, all that I want in my career will come to me. It really doesn't work like that. Outdated, archaic, antiquated rules will not work in the new methods of having a career, but also what people are missing out on are the most influential factors when it comes to constructing your career. And it is not, and never has been, and never will be, your technical acumen. And there is such an over-reliance in construction because, as you are familiar with, it is by nature a technical industry. You need to know methodology, you need to know material technology. But people think if I just get that little bit more technical experience, I will be better off. What they're missing out on is constructing their career from the inside out. They don't know their passion, their purpose, their vision, their mission, their top 7 values. They don't know how to construct a career that is in total alignment with their strengths, with who they are. They forget that internal identity. They have no idea. Most people don't have an idea about how powerful their mind is, and they keep on doing the same thing, failing to realize that it hasn't worked for the last 20 years in corporate. It's not just about to miraculously change.
Sounds like insanity, doesn't it? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And I've had experience personally in construction, and I remember the toolbox talk. It wasn't inspirational. It wasn't about my future. It wasn't about where I was going to be 6 or 12 months ahead. It was very much focused on today, but all very technical. Well, this is how you're going to set up the job site. This is how you're going to hold your stop slow sign. This is the time the crane's going to come up. And even in my time in construction, I don't believe that there was ever a conversation that was brought up about career development. What do you want? Where are you going? How can we help you get there? So if I haven't had that experience and others aren't, where can they go within their team? Is there a place, is there a time where they can discuss their careers?
You're correct in the observation. That now makes 2 of us. I remember a senior in the organization telling me, Elinor, what do you want? And all what they were looking for was a job title. I had to give it to them. It's like, wow, Here's a tiny box. Please put yourself in there. Please shrink yourself into that. And this is the big problem with the industry. Number one, people are relying on externalities outside of themselves. The construction manager, the site manager, HR, to define their careers for them. At the end of the day, they're a resource to an organization, right? Yes, of course, you have influence if you learn the skill of influence, but no one wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, Eleanor's career, that is the one I'm going to make sure that they know what they want, that they have a vision, that they're in alignment with their passion and purpose. No one does that, which is why the individual has to take onus of their career on themselves. And I find it sometimes still absurd that I am talking about this because it sounds so simple, but then you look at how many people are unsatisfied, how many people are working out of alignment, how many ambitions and dreams die because of the mediocre mindset of the construction industry. So if someone wants to take back control, number one, it's a decision that they're not going to keep on perpetuating the same decisions and expect a different outcome. But as you correctly said, it's answering the question, what do I really, really, really want? And 9 out of 10 people that I talk to in the industry, I ask that question, and it's like throwing a spanner in the works because they've been living on autopilot for minimum a decade, and now they're looking up from the system going, hang on, this isn't right. I'm not fulfilled. It's not about happiness, it's about fulfillment. So where do people like to look the least? In their heart, right? We live in a heavily left brain dominant society. People are disconnected from their heart set, and this manifests in many different ways, including not being able to answer the question, what do you want? And when I say, what do you want? Don't tell me a job title. Don't tell me a project. Don't tell me a project typology. Don't even give me a company. Blows people away.
If you mentioned heart set in the construction industry, what's the look on the face that you'd get?
What? So what?
If you mentioned values, what would be the look that you'd get on their face? Would it have even come across their mindset or heart set before? What are their values other than the company values? Customer service, customer first, team, together each achieves more. We hear this in all corporates, and
Yep.
I think everybody rolls their eyes when they hear that. But I don't know if they know how to explain, that heart set. I think a lot of them are very extrinsically motivated, like you're saying here. Let's get the title, let's look at the zeros, but what's intrinsic? What makes my heart tick? And that's a tough conversation to have when the environment around you doesn't support it. So you've had experience in this industry. You're writing books on the industry. You'd also be considered a minority in the industry because only about 12% of construction workers in Australia are female. So your message must be really shaking the cage. It must be really rattling a few cages, must be shaking a few feathers. So with this message, what's happening in the industry as you shake it up? What's changing? What are you seeing change?
The hardest thing in the world to do is to enable someone to change their belief system and to actually see a different perspective. And at the end of the day, a very small minority will actually move towards that. As I've grown in my brand, as I've grown in the brand assets, as I become more convicted in what I stand for and put that out there, of course it polarizes because it's absurd. How could there be another way to look at something which we have always done it this way? How come this is important? Everything is fine, Eleanor. Why are you introducing a new perspective? So again, this is what continuously perplexes me in a way, is how is this radical? But it is. It is a pioneering approach to actually get people to construct their career from the inside out in the construction industry and not follow, as you said, those externalities. How is it received? Look, I know my target market really well. I speak to a certain part. I speak to those who have ambition. I'm not the casual person next door. It's not within my nature. The sheer fact that you put yourself out there, the sheer fact that you are being all of who you are and doing something different, people will throw vitriol at you. They will throw personal attacks at you. They will want to take you down because, for many reasons, they see that, well, I should be the person doing that. How come they're doing it? What do they know? They're this, they're that. When someone is mission driven, all of that just becomes white noise.
There's a couple of big shifts taking place, and it's been happening in the world for many years, and we're moving from manpower to mind power. And ultimately, automation is going to come in. I've got friends who are in the concreting industry, and automation is coming in. And people are going to lose their jobs. But they've got so much valuable years of experience. But a lot of these skills and talents won't be transferable to other industries. So if they enjoy the industry and they've got a lot of experience in it, then they can remain valuable. But they'll have to really take a different look at the world as we move from mind power, from manpower to mind power. So if they remain the same and they don't change, what do you see as the biggest risks over the next 5 to 10 years to their careers?
Become outdated. They will become, to some extent, irrelevant. And this has extreme negative repercussions of people who have attached their identity for decades to a job and a company. And then through many different circumstances, that may not be there anymore. And this can truly spiral people out because that paradigm shift requires a certain amount of mental strength, mental agility, mental resilience. And when that isn't there, when people don't know who they are, when they don't find a purpose because they've never done any inner exploratory work, it's going to have negative consequences. And this is where people need to realize that they can create their own opportunity. And I know that's easier said than done, but there is always opportunity. The world is full of problems. And it does require a huge mindset shift. And that's why it has to happen first. The mindset shift needs to happen before the skill set shift needs to happen. Most people also have it in reverse. I think it's going to be an interesting industry over the next 5 to 10 years. There's a lot of factors that are playing out as a result of what we have experienced, a lot of externalities, a lot of internalities as well. People saying, you know what, this isn't for me. I can work on my own terms, have a great life, have a great lifestyle, and I don't need to be working for a toxic boss or a toxic site. So there's a lot of different shifts happening in the workplace. There's going to be a lot of adaptability, and there are going to be a lot of lost souls. And that's why the work has always been, you need to know who you are and what is it that you are here to do. And then the skill set comes in to start building that runway so you do become indispensable.
Sounds like one of the future skill sets for the construction industry is going to be emotional intelligence. People who are emotionally aware. They know who they are, they know their strengths, they know their limitations. And as we move from that skill set to mindset to heart set, people are going to need to have an external influence, because if we keep thinking within the box, we're going to come up with the same old ideas. Hey, there's a new idea. It's the same idea, we've just painted it pink. So for those people who are ambitious and they've got their heart set on a career in construction, but they just don't want the typical mundane career like everybody else, what can we learn from your website to take our careers to the next level?
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for the question. So I do work with ambitious and driven future leaders and constructors who want to, of course, construct their careers on their own terms, achieve more recognition, achieve more progression, and more remuneration. And this is done through always addressing who the person is. It starts from the inside out. And I work with people at different levels, everyone from those wanting to come into the industry and those who are seeking to transition out either into a thought leadership capacity or start their own business. It always is based around what you as the individual wants to achieve.
Wow. I love it. I love it. And so much content here. You've got your books, you've got your podcast, you've got your social media pages. Where's the best place for people to start? So if I was studying, I studied for 6 or 7 years and I got my degrees and I've been working for a decade and now I don't know who I am and I don't know what I want, where would be the best place to start on your website?
It would just be sending through a message, or of course also on LinkedIn. Just send a message, say hi, and what is your current challenge? Let's
There
have
you
a
go.
conversation about it.
Conversations. If people
Remember
knew
those?
how to have these in their careers, and I think a lot of people are so afraid to do it within the business because they're going to have a fear of being taken advantage of or a fear of being judged. And I'm a big advocate of having coaches and consultants in our life, and I believe that we've also got to reach outside of our industry to get some new insights, and especially for somebody like yourself who's operated internally but now you're consulting and coaching externally, it can bring such a new level of awareness to what we want. So ladies and gentlemen, make sure you head over to Elinor's website right now. I'll put the link in the show notes below. And if you're in construction and if you want more career success, if you want stronger finances, head over to the website now and learn more about Elinor's work. Elinor, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your insights, your positive vibes, and for sharing your knowledge over the past decade. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, one new idea is enough to change your life, and head over to Elinor's website today. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon. Ciao for now.
Thank you, Daniel.
Elinor, thank you so much.